Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Turning Hearts. My name is Andrea and I'm so glad you found me today. I would love to share with you today 3 tips that I have for those who are not tech savvy. And sometimes I consider myself to be in that category as well. Also, while I am sharing those 3 tips with you, I will be sharing the story of my great grandmother. Her name is Anne Marie Bakken Hoydal, and she was from Norway. So let's get started. This is the first picture I came across that got me on this video journey. And in this picture, you can see lots and lots of people, but my grandmother is right there. And this is my great-great-grandmother. How do I know? Because somebody took the time to write on the back of this photo. And while it's kind of messy and sloppy, and it might have taken me a couple minutes to read it, there's a story on the back of the photo, which is phenomenal. So here's my first easy non-tech step that you can actually start today. Write the names and the approximate year on the backs of your physical photos. That's it. So another tip I would give you with writing your name on the back of the photo or the names of whoever's in the photo is try to not write too hard. You don't want it to imprint on the other side of the photo. In fact, if you have a photo like this one, you can see it's glossy and it actually doesn't show any of the writing. So she wrote soft enough that it didn't go through on the photo. And most photos, you have to write pretty hard for it to imprint on the other side. So you're pretty safe, but you do want to test it out. Maybe use a photo that is of no consequence to write on the back of it and see if that pen is a good pen to write on photos with, that it doesn't smear, or that you wait for it to dry so that you don't get smears on it. And then how hard you can write on it without it imprinting on the back or onto the front of the photo. And then one final tip with the writing on the photo, so this is still all tip number 1, okay, is not to write in cursive. Print if you can. But again, don't stress over it. If you can't do anything but write in cursive, it's not that big of a deal. But it's just funny because my kids' generation, they weren't taught but like a week's worth of cursive. And so they can't even read my cursive handwriting. And I have like a half cursive, half print handwriting, but I can write print if I try. If I work at it, it's fine. I can do that. But if you can do that, it's going to be a lot easier for future generations. If you can't, that's fine too. My grandmother wrote on lots of these photos, and you'll see where she writes a lot in cursive, but then she tries to print as well. So I can read cursive, it's not an issue for me. It's the next generation that I worry about, finding photos and going, who is that? All right, tip number 2, who's ready? If you know the story that goes along with the photo, put it on the back. If you don't, then don't stress over it. Just put the people and the approximate date. Now, when you're talking about these kind of photos where I wasn't even around, and I asked my dad and he says, I wasn't around either, I don't have a clue. If he can identify who the people are, or at least 1 or 2 people, that's even impressive. So just do that. If that's all you know, do it. Write it on there. But if it's a photo that you've taken in your generation, then definitely add the photo. Like my dad has some Army photos. Now he's not gonna write a story on the back of every Army photo, but if he just writes Army, and he knows I was in my first month there, Army, first month, Dan, and then the approximate year. So there's things that you can do that help tell the story a little bit, that aren't difficult to do, and it's not hard. And if you're not tech savvy, these are things you can do by sitting at your table or sitting at your chair, and you can help your grandparents do this, you can help your parents do this. I actually did this with my mom before she passed away. When we were visiting, I said, hey mom, I just want an hour where I can sit with you and write on the backs of some of your photos, so that if you know who these people are, you can help me identify them, because I don't know who these people are. And even though she was a little bit frustrated at the beginning because she's like, I don't know who these people are. I'm like, great, well, let's find some you do know. And we found some of her pictures from high school when she took those. And she says, oh, I remember this. This was my best friend Sandra, or this was my best friend Katie. And she would put that on the back. I wouldn't have a clue who those people are, but I think it's kind of neat that I get to see that now about my mom. And they took pictures of lots of their animals when they were first married. They had like 3 or 4 different animals. I'm like, who's this? What animal? Why is this significant? Oh, that was our first dog. And so she put the name on it. So they're just little things like that that put a story together, which is really nice. So that was my second tip. If you know the story, put it on the back. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to look like what was written on the back of this one. It doesn't need to fill up the whole thing. Like I said, if you've got an Army photo and you know that was your second year in the Army, whatever, just put something down that makes sense for when that photo was taken, okay? So tip number 3 that I would give you is that if you know some of the stories that go along with these pictures, and let's say that they're a little bit long to put on the back of the picture, you could make it very simple. You can make it simple for your parents, your grandparents, whoever it is that you're helping, or if you're doing this for yourself. By putting on here, reunion, and that's it, and then the year, okay? And then identifying the people that you can. You don't have to go into putting this whole story on the back. So this is my family history notebook. It's just a simple notebook that was actually my dad's, and he's the one that started writing family history in it years ago. You can see, his notes that he started making when he started recording different things he'd come across in family history. And so I dubbed this as my family history book. So anything that I come across that I know the story about, or conversation I have with a family member, I'll give you an example. So I had a conversation with a great aunt of mine. And as she was talking to me, I just recorded some of the notes of what she was saying. And I put interview over phone with so-and-so, and I put the date, and I put the little details that she told me. And that way, a little piece of our family history is preserved. And I may not remember that conversation, but I have the notes of it, and I can go back and look on it anytime I want. So I feel like if you happen to know the story that goes with the picture, then that is a great treasure. And if you can't fit it on the back and you don't have the time for that, when you do have time, put it in the notebook that you have that is a journal or something that's just for your family history, and reference the photo. You don't have to number the photo or anything. You can just say, photo that says on the back, family reunion, 1954. This is the story that goes with that. And that's kind of a neat thing to be able to have as a grandchild or as a daughter. I would love that.